Hail Swarm, this is Nylan, your Multimedia Manager for the Guild Wars 2 chapter. What we have here is a video that shows you how to set up your software so that you can stream or record your gaming, guild meetings, or any other guild events for the benefit of the other bees. It's easy, it's free, and it only takes about 30 minutes to do, so let's get started. First we'll talk about what you need on your computer. The requirements are not extreme. Then we'll go over to Twitch TV and get you set up with an account. After that, we'll download the free software and talk about the setup that you'll need on your computer. Finally, we'll discuss the scenes and the editing modes that are necessary to give yourself a professional look, and then you'll be all set to go. For your computer, you'll need an i5 processor or better, 8 gigs of RAM, Windows 7 or better, and I strongly recommend a separate graphics card. System information can easily be found from My Explorer. Open Explorer, go to My PC, and right-click. Choose Properties, and you can read the information directly off the screen. As you see, I have a better than i5. The next information we need will be about our monitor and graphics card. Right-click on the screen and choose Screen Resolution. There you can see our monitors. I need the recommended settings for each, and I'm most interested in the second number in the resolution box. Write down the resolutions of your monitors so you'll have them later. As you can see, I have 2 monitors, and so I will write down 2 different resolutions so that I know which monitors have which resolution. Before you close it out, go to the Advanced Settings and click the button. This will open a window that tells you what kind of graphics card you have. Take a note of what the graphics card is and write that down. We now have the information we need to set up our software. It's important to know that the free version of Twitch.tv always transmits your video in 720p HD television. That corresponds to a monitor size of 1280 by 720. As long as the right side number of your monitor is greater than 720, you will show crisp images on Twitch.tv. If you want to go turbo and transmit in 1080p mode, you'll have to ensure that your monitor has a greater than 1080 number on the right side of the X. The first thing we need to do is get access to the broadcast service called Twitch.tv. So I want you to open your browser, put in Twitch.tv as you see on the screen, and if you don't already have an account, go ahead and sign up. You can make your username whatever you like, but I recommend that you consider making it your forum name. Once you've logged in or signed up, scroll to the bottom and click the Get Started button. You're brought to this page which shows the software packages available for Twitch.tv. XSplit provides 2 packages. One is called Gamecaster for $8 a month, the other is Broadcaster for $12 per month. I found them to be no easier to use than Open Broadcast software. If you have an extra $500 handy, you can go in for Winecast, which has no monthly fees, and a large number of applications that you can use in videography. If you like to use software for individual servers such as Team Fortress Classic, you might consider Evolve. However, Evolve causes significant game degradation in large MMOs like ESO and Guild Wars 2. We're going to go ahead and download Open Broadcast software. Using your additional tab mode of your browser, go ahead and use the button that says Download to go to the download screen for Open Broadcast software. We'll come back here later and talk about the setup guide. As you can see, you are brought to the Open Broadcast software download page. On the left side is a green button for Windows, and on the right, a green button for Macs and Apples. While the program is downloading, take some time to read the features of Open Broadcast software on this page. For now, we are not going to discuss any of the plugins. You are welcome to come back on your own. Before you pause this video to install your Open Broadcast software package, remember that you must be in the administrator mode of Windows for the package to install and for it to run. Go ahead and pause the video now and install the package. Before we open Open Broadcast software and set it up, we need to get a little more information about our computer and internet connection. So let's go to speedtest.net and press the Begin Test button and see what your upload and download speeds are. After it's done, write those speeds down. Remember that this is showing you the speed in megabits per second or Mbps, whereas Open Broadcast software uses kilobits per second, kbps. This means you need to add a 0 to the right of this number, put a comma where the period is, in order to get the same number that Open Broadcast software will be using. And here are my upload and download speeds corrected. Armed with your information on your internet connection and the monitor screen resolution, you're ready to open Open Broadcast software, or from now on I'll call it OBS. As you can see, I have already opened it, and the tunneling effect you see is because I'm transmitting and receiving on one monitor, and you can see the ripple effect. As you can see, the top presents a typical menu with file settings, profiles, scene collection, and help. We'll go over each of these in turn. In File, you'll see that we have the typical save. You can open the recordings folder, show play replay buffers, or exit the program. In Settings, that's the one we'll use most of all. You actually have the button to go to Settings. That button's also located on the stack on the right lower side. You can change to make it always on top, go to full screen preview mode, or open the configuration folder if you want to manipulate the files directly. There's also a help button that basically takes you to the website, opens a simple help page, or shows you the log folder if you'd like to do any diagnostics. You can click for updates, but OBS looks for new updates automatically when you open the software. On the lower part of the screen, you'll see the scenes. When you open it for the first time, there will only be one scene, named scene, and there will be no sources. Obviously, I've been using this, so I have several scenes, one for Guild Wars 2 meetings, and another one for recording lectures such as this one. I've highlighted the lecture recording, and you can see the sources that I've loaded. I've put these in here to use as examples to show you how we can set up online broadcast software. Then to the right, you'll notice that we have a variety of buttons, including Settings, Edit Scene, Global Sources, which is nothing more than sources that can be used on different scenes, plugins that we will ignore for the time being, and how to start streaming, recording, preview, and of course the exit button. At this point, you have two choices. You can go back to your browser and look at the Open Broadcast Software Setup Guide and follow those instructions. However, that's for a previous version, and the pictures on the browser do not match the current version of the software. Otherwise, you can follow what I'm setting up for you, and you'll get the same end result. You'll just be using the current pictures. Click the OBS Setup button now. Using those scene buttons I previously showed you, I've jumped to my other monitor so that I can drag the setup box over here and you can see the information without any distraction. The general menu allows you to set global settings, such as the language. You'll generally never use profiles because that's for radically different machines where you use OBS on different computers. The notification area and minimize notification area are typical of Windows settings. You can enable the cursor to always project over your screen. I always leave this blank because I set that individually for each scene item, and you can show a log window when it launches, and that's useful for debugging purposes. I like to have OBS in my notification area, so I have that checkbox checked. From the Encoding tab, simply match the radio buttons and checkboxes as well as all of the drop-downs on the audio encoding menu. For the max bitrate, use the value of your upload speed that you determined during the speed test. For buffer size, use what you determined in the monitor. For 720p, you can choose a number between 1700 and 2500. If you have a 1080p monitor, you can choose a number between 2500 and 3500. Before we go on to the next tab in OBS Setup, you'll need to get your key from Twitch. To do this, click on the dashboard on the left margin and then click on the Stream Key menu at the top. You'll see an opportunity to show the key. Go ahead and click that button and it will display your secure streaming key. To the right of that, you'll see an opportunity to change that key at any time by clicking Reset Key. Copy and paste the stream key that's displayed to Notepad, as we'll need this for the next step in OBS Setup. In the Broadcast Settings tab, make sure the mode is set to live stream. If you set it to file output only, you won't be able to stream to Twitch. The streaming server, of course, is set to Twitch. If you hit the drop-down box, you'll see there are quite a few others. The browser allows you to set up a personal server. Click the physical URL to go to the local Twitch closest to you. In my case, that's Dallas, Texas. Below that is the PlayPass streaming key. Go to your Notepad and copy and paste the stream key that you saved into that box, making sure that there is no white space before or after the stream. The rest of those boxes can be set as you see here. There are really no significant changes to make. Below that, you'll notice there is a file path and a replay file path. You can set those to whatever you want them to be. You'll also notice when you hover over the text box, it'll give you some clever keys that you can insert for date, time, or a combination of the two. There is very little that needs to be changed in the Video tab. The video adapter should default to your graphics adapter. If you have more than one graphics adapter, I would suggest using the fastest, strongest adapter you have. The custom or monitor doesn't really matter so long as the aspect ratio remains 16:9, so pick whichever one you prefer, or which works better in terms of getting a 16:9 ratio. The resolution downscale is important. Set this to 720p regardless of what you've set any other settings. This is because Twitch only uses 720p. If you set the speed anything other than fastest or bilinear, you may have abnormal results on Twitch, so leave that alone. And the FPS can be 30 or it can be 60, but if you're doing 720p, you really don't need to be higher than 30 frames per second for sending speed. The Audio Settings tab should open and be correct by default. Your desktop audio device should always be set to default, and the microphone set to whatever you use for Ventrilo. Leave all of the other settings alone. The Hotkeys tab allows you to set keys for any of the functions in OBS without having the OBS window on your screen. I prefer to have my microphone transmitting only when I'm talking on Ventrilo or when I know it is by pressing a push-to-talk button. Therefore, I activate the push-to-talk checkbox, hover my mouse over the push-to-talk dialog text box, and press the same button that I use in Ventrilo. I leave the other settings alone. In the broadcast settings, I prefer to have function keys which toggle on and off for streaming and recording. You can set these to whatever you prefer. Luckily, the Advanced tab requires very little modification. OBS will detect your dual-core or multi-core processor and check the first box for you. Leave the rest of these settings alone in the general box. In the video box, you must select very fast, and you must select main for the two drop-downs signal. The keyframe interval must be changed from 0 to 2 using the up and down buttons. You must have Use CFR checked, otherwise Twitch TV will not recognize your signal. You do not need to check the custom 264 encoder setting. I have it checked, and I've entered the code CRF with a range of 1 to 20. 1 means lots of pixelation but greater clarity, and that's good for relatively static video, whereas 20 means very little pixelation at the loss of clarity, and that's better for gaming. I found that 15 was the best setting for me. You might not need it at all, because the default setting is 10 if you don't have anything in the custom setting. Audio boxes and network boxes can be ignored. Just leave them their default settings. The Quick Sync Encoder tab is used for live TV, so you can ignore these parameters. The Microphone Noise Gate tab is the same as Vox on Ventrilo, with a few more options. You can set the open and close threshold, and the microphone will open and close based on those values. Be sure to enable the noise gate with the checkbox above. Leave the number settings for delay alone. This is very useful if you're going to be on karaoke and you want to play music. I recommend that you use the preview setting to set the values for the gates so that your music comes out only when you're playing it and you can sing along with the music. Finally, we're done with those settings. We can close the settings box and set up our screen for streaming and recording our game. As you can see, I've opened the Guild Wars 2 meeting scene, and you'll see the sources I've created on the right, which are the sources I'm going to demonstrate for you. The sources are layered from top to bottom, and that's how they appear on the screen. So Guild Wars 2 game is the bottom mat, while the monitor. In your scene box, you have only one scene, named scene. If you right-click on it, a context menu will open up, and you can choose the Renames button and name it whatever you like. Give your scene a name and click OK. Choosing the type of capture for your game can sometimes be a bit confusing. Games played in full screen mode do not have a Windows border, therefore you must use a monitor capture in order to see the game. Games played in window mode are better selected using the game capture method over the Windows capture method available in your scenes. This is because the game method captures more detail and has less pixelation. To add a scene, I right-click in the Scenes box and choose Add followed by Window Capture. Then type a name and press Enter. Your source will be added and the Properties window will open. As you can see, OBS properly selected the game that I have running. Suppose you forgot to start the game. No problem. Go ahead and start the game and then press the refresh button to the right of this drop-down box and OBS will update the list for you. Since this is my base layer, I'm not going to have a hotkey to turn the display on and off. Stretch the image to screen so that you have a full screen display on your stream. In general, you will never ignore the aspect ratio. The capture mouse cursor is useful when you want to show your activities on the screen, but for this purpose I do not have it activated. Finally, the anti-cheat compatibility hooking is used for older games which misinterpreted OBS as a bot. You don't need to worry about this because none of the games we play have that problem. The gamma is nothing more than a brightness and contrast setting. If you're looking at your stream from twitch.tv and notice it's too bright or too dark, you can adjust the gamma setting here to make it more similar to what you see on your monitor. When you're done, press OK. Now if you check that box for sources and click the preview stream, you should see a display something like this. What I've done is turned on the browser window that I have as a window capture. You can see it here showing my Twitch TV receive side, or the side that other viewers would be watching. Normally you would not send and receive on the same computer. I'm doing this only to show you an example. So I click the start streaming button and I wait a few minutes for it to sync up, and hopefully we'll get a streaming result on my web browser as well. You will notice there's a bit of a delay, and that's because the stream has to go down to the server and then get back to me. There we go. I'm showing you the game in full screen mode. All I did was right click in the source box, choose monitor capture, and select the monitor upon which I'm playing the game. Let's talk about adding a window like the Ventrilo chat window. This again is the same method. Right click in the sources, only this time choose the window capture, give your chat window a name, click OK, and you'll see the properties. Click the chat from the drop down box. Suppose you forgot to open the chat window. Remember, OBS can only see windows that are open and visible on your screen. So open the chat window from Ventrilo and click refresh so the chat shows up in the drop down box. Then you can click OK and then come back to OBS, activate the checkbox for Vent Chat, and you'll see it on your screen. For this simple chat window, I don't need any of the special features available in the properties. Before we go on, this is a great opportunity to describe the edit scene function. We're going to use this on the Vent Chat window. You can see that after I've clicked it, the Vent Chat window is highlighted in red. This means that it is the active window that I can edit. I can do a variety of things, such as make the window larger or smaller, or I can move the window around. Notice how it snaps to the edges. If I highlight a different item, such as the monitor capture showing OBS software, you can see the red border has changed to that window. Now, when I move that window, you can see the crazy tunneling effect that occurs with moving the window. Clicking the Edit Scene button again will turn off editing. There's a unique feature of window capture when using an internet browser that I should show you. Here's the window browser, and I'm going to intentionally change the window to a different tab, and I've done that without the internet browser being checked. Notice that no longer can you see the internet browser when I activate that source. Why is that? Because OBS cannot see the change in the tab unless the tab is being displayed. An easy solution is to open up the browser's properties window using the right-click feature and simply click refresh and then go and select the tab that you want. Now when I click the internet browser button, I get the displayed browser. The last thing I'd like to show you is how to insert an image into your display. This is useful for creating a dark screen or curtain during streaming when you don't want others to see what you're doing. Once again, right-click the sources, choose Add. This time you can choose Image. If you like, you can choose a folder of images and have an image slideshow. But in our case, we only need an image to create a curtain. So we'll go ahead and click the Image button. We'll create a name, just call it anything, and then we'll browse through our folders until we find the image that we would like to use, and click OK. When I activate this source, which is on the top level and full screen, it covers all other windows, and I can use it as a curtain so I can take care of things behind the scenes. And there you have it. We've gone over how to get hooked up on Twitch, how to download and set up the OBS software, and how to design scenes to use in the game for chapter meetings or instances. Thank you for watching. I'm Nylan, the Media Manager at Guild Wars 2.
Welcome to Honor. Become part of our ranks and battle alongside of us.